a large change is coming to the United States weather-wise. As we look at the current satellite imagery for today, we actually don't have too much going on, but want to direct your attention to the West Coast, where we have a active monsoon season, and actually we're going to get a bolster up of monsoon season with a possible interaction from a tropical storm, which we'll go over, as well as very cool temperatures, seasonally cool temperatures, and early fall outlook for most of the eastern and central portions of the United States. So you might be already feeling pretty chilly out there, especially in the mornings across many regions. However, this trend is actually expected to continue onward. So let's take a look at first the temperature outlook. So generally speaking, looking at our temperatures currently, departure from average, we have the entire eastern United States below average, with some of those dark blues and purples being between 10 to 15 degrees below average. So the mornings, especially early mornings, can be in the 40s to 50s across many of the areas, especially the Midwest, but down south you're seeing many areas into the 50s and 60s, which are breaking actually a couple of records, especially in Missouri. We have seen record-breaking low temperatures. And then looking over to the Pacific Northwest, which is actually our flip-flop for this entire pattern, we have very active warm temperatures in this region. Luckily, we've come down a little bit more from where we were a couple days ago, where we had dangerous heat, but we still are seasonably warm in this region. Let's look at forward and what could come next. So looking forward into the future forecast, you can see very cold temperatures centering around Oklahoma, Arkansas, and the Missouri area. You can see those bright pink colors launching out, and then looking a little bit more further, that cold air is very stubborn. It does not want to move. And then moving into mid to early September, we have another cold shot returning to the Midwest region and eventually the entire eastern seaboard again. So generally speaking, this pattern, which was originally not expected to hold as long as it has, is going to bring seasonally below average temperatures across many of the eastern United States regions. And then looking a little bit more westward for this pattern, we actually have a uptick in heat for this region. A couple of cool days, but mostly speaking, the western and specifically the Pacific Northwestern portion of the country are going to see very warm temperatures into the 70s and 80s as highs, especially in the northern regions. This is just not normal. So let's continue onwards and look at the National Weather Service prediction. So first, looking at the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook by the National Weather Service, we have a likelihood of seeing below average temperatures, especially around the center portions of the country. You can see we have that 60 to 70% chance of likely below average temperatures. And then looking over to the western United States, that is where we have the highest likelihood of very warm temperatures above the average. So again, those 70s to 80s are possible in the Pacific Northwest, and we're getting to the time of year where this is becoming a little bit more unusual. And lastly, I want to point out in Alaska and Hawaii and the southernmost tier, especially in Florida and southern Texas, we have that likelihood for above average temperatures. So that really stubborn cold air is going to hook onto the center portions of the country. Again, this is for the 6 to 10 day outlook. Let's move on to the 8 to 14 day outlook. And you might be questioning, wow, did that really change? Not really. So looking generally speaking, we have a less of a higher likelihood, but still a decent solid chance of seeing below average temperatures in the center portions of the country. Not so much for the extreme eastern United States, like the upper northeast and the mid-Atlantic region. Looks like we have a pretty good chance of staying near normal, but specifically the Midwest region and central plains, we can see below average temperatures. And then looking back to the western coast, again, more likelihood to have higher end temperatures. Southeast, specifically Florida, looking at above average temperatures as well, and Alaska, Hawaii in the mix of above average temperatures. Now with that, we've gone over the exact temperature outlook for the next few weeks. Let's take a look at how this pattern will impact your precipitation outlook for everyone across the United States. So generally speaking, across the United States, let's move our future radar for accumulated precipitation for the next 10 days, and you might be seeing the monsoon season is in full force. Now we have actually a decent chance of seeing high-end rainfall between the Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Mississippi region. You can see a kind of a system building in that area, but for some regions that really need the rainfall, and specifically in Montana, Wyoming, and Colorado, that's where we could see some pretty high-end rain. Pausing it there, you can see at the end of our forecast term, now we're getting into early September, the first few days of September, we actually have a pretty active weather pattern setting up in the southeast. This is from actually an expected uptick of possible tropical activity, so stay tuned on rainy day weather for more updates on that. But generally speaking, an enhanced shot of moisture is going to come into the northwest corner of the United States from actually some amplified help from a tropical disturbance right off the coast of Mexico right now. That moisture is going to be drawn up and dump a lot of rain, multiple rounds of rain. So many areas that need rain in that region will be receiving it, and generally speaking, pretty quiet in the northeast and extreme western portions of the United States like California. Midwest region also staying pretty dry across the kind of north and east corner of Missouri and Illinois and Indiana. Kind of not going to see a lot of storm activity there. Stay tuned for more updates. Let's go over one more thing before we wrap it up here. The last area I want to put on your guys' radar for next week is our tropical outlook by the Climate Prediction Center. You can see a 20% chance of a storm development happening within this red hatch zone. That's our MDR, or main development region. Not too much of a surprise, as any homegrown threats, at least short term, are not looking very likely. However, we are working our way into peak season. Just a reminder, just because we've had a somewhat quieter overall tropical season does not mean our full tropical risk is anywhere near done. It only takes one. So stay tuned on Rainy Day Weather for more updates. Let me know what you guys want to see. And if you like this video, if you didn't mind giving a like, share, and subscribe would be huge. We are nearing 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. You guys have an amazing day. And again, please stay weather aware.